Good morning. I'm Pat Thurston, your host. I'll be with you until 5 o'clock this morning, and boy, do I have a treat for you. We have the author of Family of Secrets, The Bush Dynasty, America's Invisible Government, and the Hidden History of the Last 50 Years, Russ Baker. Russ Baker is an award-winning investigative reporter. He has a track record for making sense of complex and little understood matters. He's written for The New Yorker, Vanity Fair, The Nation, The New York Times, The Washington Post, The Village Voice, and Esquire. He's also served as contributing editor to the Columbia Journalism Review. He received a 2005 Deadline Club Award for his exclusive reporting on George W. Bush's military record, and he is the founder of Who, What, Why, the Real News Project, a nonpartisan, nonprofit investigative news organization operating at whowhatwhy.com. Russ Baker joins us now on the Pat Thurston program. Russ, thank you so much for coming in.
It's great to be here, Pat. Thank
Here
you
you are, 1 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast, coming right into the studio. And now that we've got you here, we've got the doors locked, and you can't leave until we're done.
All right, I'll do my best.
Well, first of all, the book is fascinating. I have not had an opportunity to read the entire book. I have read a synopsis of the book, and but the whole thing just sort of falls into line with so many other things that we've been reading about of late. What I want to start with you is what made you pursue this book? Was it the presidency of George W. Bush?
No, and if I'd known that I was going to be living with this for 5 years, I probably would have had some second thoughts. It took 5 years of research and writing to complete Family of Secrets. No, what happened was back in 2003, I had been asked actually by the U.S. government to go to the former Yugoslavia and train journalists there in an emerging democracy and the importance of investigative reporting. And while I was there, we had the run up to the invasion of Iraq, I began to see a sea change in people's attitudes towards the United States throughout Europe. And people were saying, what has happened to your country? And I started thinking, what has happened to my country?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What has happened? This is remarkable. If we go back and we recount all of the controversies of the George W. Bush administration, this is historic when you compare it to the sweep of the entire of American history. And I thought, what is happening? What was happening? What does this mean? And so I began in 2004 when I came back to the United States, just simply traveling around the country, asking people, is there anything more to this story than we understand? And boy, did I find out there was.
You were, when you were overseas, when you were in Yugoslavia, people were saying what's happening to your country. When you got back, did you look around and say, what the hell is going on?
I sure did. And keep in mind, when I came back 2004, we already knew there were no weapons of mass destruction. It was already pretty clear that something that I had felt and had written about back in 2003 before the invasion was that this was trumped up, that they wanted to go to war so badly, and they were looking for any excuse they could find. And so when I was back in 2004, I thought, well, now it's obvious that they did that. We already know there are no weapons. And here he is. They're saying that he skipped out on his military service. And here he is. The man running against him is this Vietnam War hero.
Right.
He can't possibly win. And then I saw how well he was doing politically. And I said, this is astonishing. The machine behind him, their ability to overcome everything.
Yeah, yeah, including his apparent stupidity, although a lot of people say that he's actually not stupid, but it is kind of shocking that, and even when you look at the Bush family, that he would be the one to follow Herbert Walker rather than Jeb. It seems like Jeb would have been the heir apparent.
Well, you know, Jeb may still be the heir apparent, and that's one of the things I'd love to talk about, is that this family has had staying power unsurpassed by any family in American history. In fact, not just the Bushes we know about, there are the Bushes we don't know about, going way, way back.
Well, let's talk about some of those. Now, we were talking before coming on the air that the power structure of this family, of the Bush family, actually goes all the way back to George Washington?
It goes way, way back. I found traces with the ancestors, with things like the creation of the city of Rochester, New York, by a group of real estate speculators who came out, who had associations with Washington. They set up there the early roots of Skull and Bones out of there. Just fascinating roots. And then you go a little forward and you find one of George W. Bush's forebears affairs, being a minister to some of the wealthiest congregations in America. He was the minister on Nob Hill to these great railroad families and so forth.
Holy mackerel! Did you, as you were looking at the Bush family, did you also consider Barbara's background?
Yes, and Barbara's is the same thing. If anybody's ever seen the movie The Good Shepherd with Matt Damon about Skull and Bones, where you see a lot of this is true. They actually own an island. There's a private island, and you see this scene, this very opulent
Is it where
dinner
King
dance.
Kong is?
It's not. No.
Wasn't that the Skull and Bones?
I don't think
Never
so.
mind.
Anyway. And so they have this dinner dance, and you see them sort of finding their mates, from among these very elite circles. By the way, Pat, that some people have said to me, why should I be interested in a book about the Bushes? A lot of people say to me, I don't want to hear another word about these people.
Right.
We've moved on. And what I have to tell them is there's so much you don't understand. We haven't moved on. We can't move on because the Bushes are not just the Bushes. The Bushes are basically a part of a much larger, more enduring apparatus that is always with us, and we don't understand that at all.
Is this the secret government, the invisible government?
I'm hesitant to use such terms. We did use it in the subtitle of the paperback. Bush Dynasty, America's Invisible Government and the Hidden History of the Last 50 Years. What I'm talking about is that, like all countries, we have essentially a kind of an oligarchy, a sort of a plutocracy. We have very wealthy families in this country that are very interested in what goes on in government, and that their interests be protected. And this is unsurprising to people I talk to everywhere else in the world, but in the United States they'd say, no, that can't happen here.
Right.
And they have absolutely no idea, because what we do is we focus on these dramas that the media present to us, Nancy Pelosi versus whomever and so on. Those people are really not that important. They're very much transitory figures, and they can't make a move without the approval of a lot of these other folks.
All right, we'll get to who those other folks are, but I think we're going to go back to Prescott. I find Prescott Bush to be rather fascinating, and it seems like a lot of people really don't know very much about Prescott. I'm not saying I do, but I am saying that I think we need to. But first, we're going to take a commercial break, so stick with me. Russ Baker's my guest, and we are going to open up our phone lines to you throughout the time that Russ is here. I know we've spoken many times in the past about intelligence in this country, the intelligence agencies, especially the CIA. We've talked about George W. Bush and George Herbert Walker Bush, and many of you have some fascinating insights and great questions of your own, so I hope you participate in this discussion. The telephone number is 808-0810. That's 8080-810. I'm Pat Thurston, and you're listening to KGO News Talk 810.